Fast forward to when I was in grade school, the kids bullied me relentlessly, treating me like an ape, Lana, or a dog. Ooh, don't go near her, she's got fleas. Basically verbally beating me into obscurity. When I was in grade 7, I remember living across from the school. So I would go home for lunch every day. One time these three white guys pulled up next to me and asked me if I wanted a Dairy Queen beverage, but I shook my head. Suddenly the guy threw the drink at me and menacingly retorted, "Here, have it anyway, you dumb drunken Injun." Degraded, I ran home and looked in the mirror. I saw chocolate milkshake in my hair, my clothes, everywhere. I felt the stinging in my eyes and wiped the sticky substance as best as I could because I had to be back at school. Ashamed of my color of my skin, I tried to scratch it off. After school, I begged my mom to cut my hair, and she did, without ever knowing the real reason why. She could tell I was upset. I was too humiliated to talk about it at first. Only once we both looked at the long strands of my beautiful hair spread across the kitchen floor did I finally tell her what happened. Do you know how many movie stars pay big bucks for tan skin, full lips, and flowing hair like yours? And they pay thousands of dollars to look like you, she comforted me. You better believe I wear my hair long. It was a gray, dismal January morning in 1997. I was dropping my 5-year-old son, Michael, at McDonald Elementary School when I noticed that the media was everywhere and people seemed to be in a frenzy. I overheard a distraught mother crying about the terrible bullying that her son was experiencing at the school. Students were crying in the hallway with their heads hung low, and I could feel a dark, foreboding gloom hanging over the whole school. I held my son close to me. This scene hit me particularly hard. It made me feel that all my fears were coming to life. As a parent of a special needs child labeled as speech delayed, I had always been terrified that he would be bullied. And I already knew there was far too little extra support for students like my son, and the school urgently needed extra support to deal with the crisis. My mind raced. I thought about the anguished mother, her son, and the horrible threats he received. That could be my child. Something needed to be done. I cried like a baby. I felt so powerless. But how could I do anything to end the crisis? I'm just one woman. I have a husband and 2 small children. I was attending university at the time, and we were barely making ends meet as it was. The more I thought about it, the more unraveled I became. I felt a sense of urgency rise within me. These kids needed a voice. Suddenly, a glimmer of hope. There was something I could do. I would never have done this walk if it hadn't been for my grandfather's footsteps, which he set for me to follow. Here is my grandfather in our language, it's Tates, and this is my grandmother, which is So. Tates dealt with insurmountable odds when the local townsmen forced First Nations people out of their homes. First Nations people lived in the outskirts of Smithers. The Nitos, or white people, called it Indian Town. The Mayor Smithers made it his mission to rid the people of the undesirables and move them to a hilly cliff across from the train tracks. My Tates knew the land was uninhabitable. When the authorities came for his family, he adamantly refused to be bullied. Fuck do they think we are, mountain goats? Apparently they did. Eventually, one by one, the townsmen burned my people's shacks down. In fact, the image of my Tates right here are the few surviving photos of him, because so much was lost in those fires. My grandparents were left with no choice but to move. Their family was displaced 3 times in a single year, all over Smithers. They may have forced his people out, but Tates would not let them defeat him. My grandfather was never someone who ran away from his troubles. He ran towards every challenge head on. He was recognized for his courage as a young man. His community hired him as the official runner, a highly prestigious role reserved for the men groomed to be hereditary chiefs. It was my grandfather's story of strength and resilience that galvanized me to take action in my moment of despair. I knew I could not just stand still and accept the inequality of First Nations, Asians, and special needs students that we're facing in our schools, all of the issues. Sometimes I would have glimpses of faith that I could fly, but then every time I tried to spread my wings, society just knocked me back to the ground. How would I ever be able to do this? My spirit was deflated. I was powerless to do anything. But then I heard it, a rousing whisper that I imagined was my Tates. In that moment of doubtfulness, the spirit of my Tates entered my mind. You have come from a long line of workers, and you have come from a strong cultural background. My granddaughter, you can do this. Whatever you put your mind to, you will succeed. In all honesty, a feeling of warmth washed over my whole body, and I knew nothing could stop me. I thought, I'll be just like my Tates. I'll run across British Columbia to raise awareness of the crisis in our inner city school. But then reality hit me. When I looked at myself, all I could see was a flabby, weak body. Maybe I had better just walk instead. Honestly, my whole life I've been beaten down by so many people who've told me what it means to be an Indian. I regret that I believed what society said, that I would end up barefoot and pregnant with 12 kids and on welfare. These stereotypes brainwashed me to my core, and for so long they prevented me from moving forward. But most of all, I regret not speaking up for myself at a time when I endured the worst kind of violation a child can endure. This, I think, may be the most profound reason that I did the walk in the first place. To give the kids a voice that I never had when I was young. I was 10 years of age on November 27, 1976. The day I walked home from Princess Park, where I'd been playing with my brothers and friends. It was an unseasonably warm Indian summer afternoon, and I was proudly wearing these brand new white shorts with red lines going down the seams, a gift from my mother she brought back from Reno. They even had Reno printed on them. They were a bit big for me, but I still loved those shorts because it was a memento of my mom's trip to see Elvis Presley in concert. A man stopped to ask if I wanted candy. What kid didn't? Over here, he gestured and pointed toward the bushes. I followed. The moment we were out of anyone's view, he put a knife to my throat. He ordered me to the ground. I obeyed for fear that he would kill me. He threw his smelly, sweaty jean jacket over my head, saying, "Here, so you don't have to watch me." He took off my favorite shorts and panties off. I heard him unzip his pants, and I heard him spit. I don't remember the act itself or how long he was on top of me. It was like I was being sheltered somehow. But I still knew that what he was doing was the worst kind of bad. After he was done, I sat up and frantically put my little panties back on and fumbled to look for my shorts. As I dressed myself, I felt numb. Hot tears were stinging in my eyes. I yelled at him, "I'm gonna tell my brothers on you!" I was throwing rocks at him. He had this evil smirk and warned me, "If you ever tell anyone, I'm gonna kill you." I never did tell my protected brothers because they would have beat him up, or worse. I don't remember almost any other details from that period of my life, but I do know one thing for a fact. I never did wear those white shorts again. It was as if I was trying to erase what happened to me. I discovered alcohol at the age of 15. I thought it would help me forget the pain, but it made things worse. I didn't trust anybody. I felt like a burden to society. I felt like a worthless piece of shit. I had very low self-esteem. I shut my emotions down. Inside I felt like crying, but I'd always put up a front with a big smile on my face to mask the pain. I felt like a burden to society. Like a pariah. It left me thinking, what on earth am I here for? What is my purpose? At the time, I had no answers. But it's strange how out of our deepest traumas often come our greatest strengths. It took me 20 years for me to see that my life really did matter, to see that even I was able to make a difference. We are all just walking each other home. I recently heard a woman say these powerful words in a CBC interview, and the truth of what I've achieved with this journey finally made sense to me. That by putting one foot in front of the other, I was able to empower other young people while also moving towards my own healing. That with every step of my walk and with every step since, I have been able to reclaim the power that man took from me. And this is something I will never regret. It's my hope that my story can be seen as a beacon. In UBC's Native Indian Teacher Education Program, we were taught that one cannot make sense of one's present and cannot positively move towards the future until one understands the past. This philosophy has inspired my lifelong journey of healing, forgiveness, and acceptance. And this has finally brought me to a place where I can share my story. embrace my worth, and celebrate my accomplishments. How appropriate, too, that it comes at a time of truth and reconciliation for our people. That it comes at this moment in history when so many people are grappling with the past and working to create a more hopeful future. My small story is only a thread in a tapestry of narratives lived by my people and others who have not felt that they had a voice. And I hope that by sharing mine, this will give others the courage to speak their own truth. After all the trauma I endured throughout my life, I am still standing. Like my grandfather and my mother, and so many of my people who suffered unthinkable abuse, I am a survivor. I am a warrior. I am learning to be comfortable in my own skin. I'm coming to accept my beautiful, scarred, brave, imperfect self. And sharing this story with you allows me to finally celebrate my achievement with honor. And to encourage you to do the same, no matter what forces hold you back. After 42 days of walking and 52 days away from my family, I was asked to give a speech at the finish line in Vancouver. But at the time, I felt too small to take up that much space. So I turned down that opportunity to say what I truly wanted to say. And I've always regretted that decision. But having all of you here today to listen to my story gives me a second chance to get this part just right. This message is for the kids. I had one vision in mind when I embarked on this extraordinary journey: to raise awareness of the inequality of education for First Nations, Asians, and special needs kids. I wanted people to understand just how drastically the province funding cuts were affecting the student learning. From day one, I faced many obstacles and challenges. Some say this walk couldn't be done, but I didn't listen. I followed my heart and marched on. And no matter what bumps I hit on the road, I kept going, no matter what. This walk was inspired by you, the children. I made this epic journey for you. The people of British Columbia carried me to the finish line in honor of you. Always remember, people care about your education, your future, your dreams. You matter. In the snow and heavy rains and stifling heat and strong winds, I could have quit. When my hip ached with knife sharp pain, I could have quit. When I learned that friends and family were suffering while I was away, I could have quit. When I found out the elementary school succeeded in hiring 8 extra support staff, I could have quit. But it's because of you, the children, I kept going. I wanted to give you, the children, something honest and pure to believe in. So I walked the rest of the way to Vancouver, just as I'd promised. And all across British Columbia, people heard you roar. We overcame this obstacle your school faced together. You can see dreams really do come true. Let this serve as a powerful, shining example that you can achieve anything you put your mind to. I know that whatever is holding you back from achieving your education, be it bullying, whatever is going on in the home, whatever is making you think that you're not good enough to be in school, I am here to tell you, you are enough. I know firsthand that kids can't learn best when they struggle with challenging emotions in their lives. I know what many of you are going through. But please remember that it is never too late to make a change. Challenge yourselves. Take risks. And always remember to have faith that things can get better. Believe in yourselves. Have heart that you will overcome whatever stands in your way. Have heart that you will overcome anything that comes across your path. As I was approaching the outskirts of Vancouver, reporter Mi Zhang Li asked me, if you can share one message with the kids, what would that be? Without hesitation, I responded, never give up. If you want to become a doctor, a lawyer, a police officer, a teacher, or whatever your heart desires, it is possible. If you have it within you to dream, then you have it within you to achieve it. Masai.